You ready for some fun?
Yes, I'm so ready.
Welcome back to Operation Evil. I'm your host, Nyoka,
And I am your co-host, Megan.
and I thought we would have some fun with another Reddit and set it because this is how Megan started on the podcast. She came
Yes,
on
it
as a
is.
guest for some Reddit, and she's like, I don't know what this is, but whatever. I'll have fun with it. And now that she knows kind of what to expect, I found some stories and I want to get your thoughts on it. Are you ready? You're going to love
Yep.
this first one. Okay, so this one is from the subreddit Creepy Encounters, and it is local.
Ooh.
Woo! And it's called I Think I Got Into a Car with a Serial Killer. Throughout this story, I would like for you all to please keep in mind that I was 20 years old and very naive. You're going to think I'm stupid, and I was. Probably lucky to be alive, and God do I know that I kick myself whenever I think about this day. I just wanted to get some other opinions. Maybe I am wrong about them. Okay, so after about 20 years ago, I was walking down the road in a not so great area. It was summertime and I was dressed appropriately for the heat, shorts and a tank. I'm very thin and I was downright skinny then and got mistaken for a sex worker more times than I could care to admit. This may or may not be important to the story. So, anyways, I was walking to pick up my son from daycare and I was going about my way. A full truck full of men started to catcall and follow me. They turned around several times to yell at me out of the window, and I was getting nervous about it. I was passing a gas station parking lot, and a man not much older than myself stopped in a nice car and asked if I would like a ride. He didn't seem scary and he was attractive, so I said okay, and I got in his car. Sheesh, I wish I could smack myself. So I get into the car with him and he asks where I'm going. I tell him it's about a mile straight down the road I'm on. He starts going on, he starts going the wrong way and just tells me he needs to turn around. I pay little mind. He starts to ask me about myself, so I tell him I'm escaping a DV situation and was staying in a woman's shelter nearby. I was telling him how closely my activities were monitored and that I was due to pick up my son any minute. I think this may actually be what saved me. At some point, I notice he takes another wrong turn, but I don't know the area at all. So when I point it out, he says he's taking a shortcut or something, and I just go back to talking like an idiot. Then I get a whiff of something. I now know that smell was death, decomp. I know this for sure. I did not then. I turn around and I look in the back seat looking for spoiled food or something. The car is absolutely spotless. I bring up the smell and he brushes it off and changes the subject. But for some reason, the smell just was getting stronger. My dumb ass brings it up again. What is that smell? He says he doesn't know. Probably something he forgot to take out and has gone bad.
The
When
Taco
I,
Bell from earlier.
right? When I tell you guys there was not a crumb in that vehicle, I'm baffled. But eventually he drops me off safe to my destination. He doesn't tell me his name, ask for my number, or give me his, and I don't think much of it until later when I smelled that smell again. But this time I know what it is, and it triggers the memory of the guy in the car. This was probably 2005 in Covington, Kentucky, and I'm very sure that him being aware that not only would I be missed, I would be missed quickly and my movements would be tracked. And was the only reason that I made it back out of that car that day. Back out of that car that day. So yeah, Covington, Kentucky,
No kidding.
2005. What happened in 2005?
No,
I don't know.
I don't remember.
Somebody said, "You're so lucky. Hindsight is 2020. So try not to be hard on your younger self. I definitely made decisions at that age and a little younger that easily could have gotten me killed or worse." Somebody said two things. The pristine cleanness definitely lends to the idea he was a killer as he was used to getting rid of hair or other identifiers. Two, is it okay to ask, when and where did you smell that smell again later that clues you in? They said, it's nothing sinister. I wound up going to nursing school and working in a hospital for 4 years. That's not including my clinicals and such. I have several different opportunities to smell death. Somebody said, whoa, I was nervous there might have been a plot twist.
Yeah.
Somebody says he probably had a body in the trunk. Somebody said, have you ever looked up local serial killers or wanted persons or police sketches or anything like that to try to recognize his face? She said, I have, and I don't know if I would recognize him. No, I'm not great with faces.
Let me
So
look.
I was like, wow, 2005, Covington, Kentucky, which is very close. Very
Unless he was
close.
just driving through too. You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's 2013. 20 toddlers.
I keep
death.
thinking of the Paige Johnson case. When did that happen? Remember, she was,
Paige? Yeah.
I even covered that.
So I did something really stupid, very similar to this. And this is a secret if you'd like to hear it.
I would love to hear it, but it's not going to be a secret anymore.
Right? So I don't know that my dad will ever listen to this, but we used to go to horse shows all the time. And I was in my teens. I think I was maybe 16 and I was with my friend Annie. And Annie and I we're very tight knit, very like sisters, more like anything. And just great friends we were. And she decided to come with me on this trip. And we were in Hershey, Pennsylvania, is where we were. And my dad got us a hotel room with a pool so we could swim during the day, and then he'd come and pick us up at various times. We knew about it, but this was before cell phones and stuff, pagers. This was before all that.
Yeah.
And he would tell us, hey, at 2:00, I'm going to come get you guys. We've got our show tonight. You guys can help out, whatever. Okay, cool. So, but most of the time he let us stay at the hotel. Well, he took us to the mall the one day, and we're there for a week, by the way. He took us to the mall the one day, and Annie meets this cute boy at the music shop, because that's what we did. We went into the music shops. And she meets him. I believe his name is Mike, if I'm not mistaken. She can correct me. But anyways, we meet him, and he's much older than us. Not by a lot. Like, he's 20, we're 16, 17, whatever. And he says, I got my car. What are you guys doing later? And we said, oh, we're staying at this hotel. You should come. Let's go swimming. And he goes, all right, cool. So he comes down. We all go swimming. We all have a blast. Like, we have so much. We're kids, right? We're
Right.
having a blast. And Mike says, hey, let's go down the road and get milkshakes. And we said, okay. He goes, they're at the bowling alley right down the road. Let's go. So we get in the car and we go. And on our way, now we're in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Crime is high, actually, in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It is a shit show there. But we don't know this. We're kids.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's go get milkshakes. So we're in the car, and all of a sudden, this other car comes right up on our ass. Now, this road that we're on is like Dixie Highway. Okay. So it's 4 lanes of traffic with your middle turn lane or whatever. And this guy comes flooring it up behind us and almost like smashes into the back of us and then like scurries around us. So we think nothing of it. Like, the guys just wasn't paying attention and drove off. So this Mike, I think his name's Mike, keeps driving, and we pull into a gas station. So we're sitting at this gas station and the car pulls in behind him. So he looped around and came in behind him. And Mike said, get in the car. You guys don't get out of the car. And, let me figure this out. And we're like, what? And he takes off. He takes off. The car takes off. And now he's chasing him. So Annie's in the front seat. I'm in the back seat. So I lean over Annie and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Sorry, I didn't mean to say that, Bomb. And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, do you know these guys? And he's like, no. I said, where's your nearest police station? Go to the nearest police station. So he does. He drives to the nearest police station, and this car is still following him. And he's like, maybe I know these people. Well, stupidly, we all stop. And the car pulls up behind him, and he gets out with a baseball bat. He had a baseball, like I do too.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets out with a baseball bat, and he goes walking back. And the guy says, we have a gun. And you see the guy get out with a gun. Now I'm looking in the back seat, and I can see this.
Oh,
and
that's
I
terrifying.
get down on top of Annie, and I'm like, Annie, stay down, stay down, stay down. Mike jumps back in the car, doesn't even shut the door, and takes off. And I said, go to the police station. And luckily, we were a block away from the police station. He swooped around, and he's honking his horn at the cop station. Nobody's there. So he's like, well, I don't want to drive back to my house or your hotel. He's going to know where we are. And I was like, well, at this point in time, drive to somebody's house so we can at least call 911. So we did. We ended up driving to, I think, his mom's house or something. And we ended up calling 911. And when the cops got there, we asked them if they could take us back to the hotel. And they said, no, because of liability reasons, we can't give you a ride. And I was like, well, he's not going to be able to take us because now we got people chasing after us. I was like, how are we getting home? And this was before Ubers and stuff.
Right.
So we waited like an hour and a half and then we drove out and they escorted us back to the hotel. So we're in the hotel and literally maybe a half hour goes by the time like we get dropped back off at the hotel. Mike leaves, by the way. We're dropped off at the hotel. We're going to leave to go back to New York at this point in time. And we hear a knock at the door and it's like a pound, pound, pound. And I was like, what? And I go, Annie, go get in the bathroom, lock the door. Don't come out unless I say so. So she goes in, she locks the door. She's like, Megan, are you okay? And I walk up to the door and I swung the door open and oh, my ribs. I hid behind the back of it. And my dad's like, what are you guys doing?
Oh
I'm
my
like, Dad? So Annie and I, to this day, have never, ever, ever that I know of. I don't think she's ever told anybody. We swore to secrecy that we would never, ever tell that story because we were so embarrassed about it. But she ended up dating that guy for like, I don't know, 6 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I mean, they were like a solid relationship.
Dude, you were willing to take one for the team and get that door.
Oh, dude, you have no idea. I was so pissed.
Wow.
And you know me, like I look over my shoulder around it, and like I'm probably one of the safest people you could be around. And
you just
my
swing
God.
that door open, like,
Oh, I did. And
what's up?
Yeah, I was hiding behind it. My dad's like, what the hell are you doing? Nothing?
Nothing at all.
If only you knew, you would kill me.
Hopefully he doesn't listen to that.
I hope he does. I hope he doesn't.
Pretend you didn't.
Yeah. But anyways, that was the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me.
That is crazy. I have another creepy encounter for you.
Do it.
This one's called This Just Happened Out Late with My Dog. I just had this strange encounter. I took my dog to pee last night. It's late for a woman to be out, I know, but I think my dog gives me a false sense of security sometimes. Also, usually there are 1 to 2 dog owners out even past midnight, but tonight there wasn't. I was in the courtyard area between multiple buildings, and my dog was finding a spot to pee. This guy passed us by in the pathway close to one of my buildings to the left. I just look at him and maybe look too hard or something because I can come off kind of creepy when I stare because sometimes I dissociate, especially if I'm tired. He started looking behind him and like stalling, like he's waiting for something. He walks back a bit, walks a bit forward, just stalling and looking down and back. And my assumption is he has an off leash dog he's waiting for. I can't really see because there are bushes. I notice when he stares at my dog peeing. As he's doing this, a security guard in bright yellow walks in the pathway close to the building, right on the other side of me, right side, and the guy walks off. I didn't see any dog with him. I think he's gone. And for some reason, I'm not really registering this as a threat. I really don't know why. A part of me thought maybe I scared him off by staring at him. So my dog pees and poos pretty quickly, and I'm walking back. That guy had crossed to another building, and he's close to the back door of that building, hiding behind a pillar, just standing there watching me. Behind the pillar, he makes no movements, just stares. A somewhat narrow road is separating us. No one else is around, no cars. So I walk to the opposite side and cross the street there instead. And as I'm on the other sidewalk opposite that of the sidewalk he is on, I look where I saw him in case he darts at me, and he's still staring down from the behind the pillar. His body isn't turned and head is, and he's just watching me. I rush home. 0 words exchanged, no gesturing, nothing. He didn't look homeless at all. He had on a nice black tracksuit, looked brand new, white male, didn't seem obviously mentally ill in any way. Also, it was odd because I was calm the entire time. I don't know if I can report this There was no interaction. It was night, so I couldn't make out any real features other than he was white, wearing a black tracksuit, and was staring at me. Do you think she had a reason to be concerned?
It's just creepy, don't you think? I mean, it's just creepy. You don't do that. You don't act like that. You don't hide behind pillars and watch people.
Somebody said carry hairspray and a lighter. The hairspray will sting and might stop him, but lighting up will definitely stop him.
It's true. This is
Scary
true.
base. What a weird suggestion.
Did you see the girl that put flour in her hair dryer and lit her brother on fire?
No.
I mean, he didn't catch on fire, but I mean, it could have been really bad, but she was doing it as like a spoof. You know how they put flour in your vents in your car and it blows out when you turn it on?
Yes.
That's what she was
Yes.
trying to do, but it lit on fire.
Wow. That sounds like something that would happen with me.
Yeah.
And somebody said, yeah, I think hairspray without the lighter will work fine. Unless you're really practiced at doing that, it could go so wrong. I've
Yeah.
heard that that is a brutal if it will get in your eyes. Somebody
There's
said, I
always
just
wasp
should.
spray.
That's what somebody said.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's weird. Somebody said, wasp spray before seeing your comment. I'm glad I'm not the only one that sees its potential.
Well, that can shoot up to 20 feet,
Somebody
but it
said
will
it
blind you,
works
though. It could
just as
blind you.
well as mace and sprays farther out.
Yep.
Wow, that is crazy. I did not know
But
that.
you can get charged with that. So you got to be
Oh,
careful. Because
don't
it's
do
a
that.
chemical. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Let's go to the next story. I have to throw in my glitch in the matrix.
All right, do it.
It says, we could see what we should not have seen. This happened a long time ago. Me and Joe were driving down a busy street late one night, like 1 a.m., coming up on a four-way intersection where the stoplights were flashing. We had flashing yellow and the other direction was red. Off of our right, we could see another car coming from a good block away and say, I don't think that guy's going to stop. Joe says, that guy's not going to stop. As we had this conversation, I come to a stop at the intersection as the car blows through the red light. We both say, he didn't stop. Yes, looking back, our conversation was rather odd. Then we continue on our way to the restaurant. The next thing we're doing, the exact same thing, going down the exact same route. And it occurs to me, Joe, we shouldn't have been able to see that car last night. All those houses are in the way. You see, we're driving through a mostly residential neighborhood with fences and not any large gaps between the houses. For years, every time I drove through that intersection, I tried to figure out exactly how we saw the other car that night, and it's impossible. You can't even see their headlights because of all the trees. Someone was watching over us that day.
Wow. That's a good one.
Yeah,
It's because I believe in that stuff, though.
I do too.
I'm such a nerd. Don't tell anybody.
Never, never. It's like it was like a guardian angel, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Somebody, let's see. I'm seeing if there's any good comments here. Somebody said, what restaurant was open at 1 a.m.? They said Waffle House.
Denny's. Did you guys have Denny's here?
We do have a Denny's here.
You do? Okay.
It's
Because
in
we had them
Walton.
all over. They were like on every block. They're like our Frisch's
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
We
We'll go to
always
the
used to
next.
get moons over my hammy just because we wanted to say it. That's what we ordered. And I got a mint tingling.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Stupid.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
This subreddit is new to me, so I thought it would be interesting. But the subreddit is near death experience.
Ooh.
It's called I Died and Came Back. I will start by saying I don't know if I fully believe this story myself, but I wanted to share it just to make sense of it all. When I was 9 years old, I began getting sexually abused by my older cousin, 14 at the time. This experience happened about 2 years into things. It was summer, and my uncle was the only adult around. At this point, I, at this point, was being violently raped by my 16-year-old cousin on the regular. He had a particular fetish for choking me. I was 11 and I knew all the rules. I was silent. This week, the assaults had become increasingly violent with each day as he attempted to rebuild a Jeep. But this day was different. His eyes had a rage to them I have never seen. Black filled his eyes until the cool blue was just silver. I had almost gotten him caught earlier in the day, and he was furious. As he shoved my face down into the mattress, everything started to go black. Then suddenly I wasn't in my body anymore. I was on the ceiling looking down, and there he was holding out his hand, my childhood friend who had died a few years prior in a terrible accident. Yet suddenly I was taking his hand. Then standing by the door, the light filling in behind her, was my aunt. She had died prior to me being born. I asked them both what was happening. I was told I was in a in between, the space where I will either go back and live or go with them and enjoy the other side. I remember not quite believing it at first, but then I was looking at my abuser, and he cleaned himself up and realized I wasn't moving. He shook me, trying to wake me, but I wasn't there. I watched as he flipped me over and saw purple lips. I watched as he panicked. I watched as he attempted CPR to no result. I asked my aunt and friend what to do. What would happen if I died? I remember walking in the driveway as they had moved my body to the trunk of the car. My aunt explained to me that I could choose what I wanted to do. As the costs and benefits were laid out in front of me, I had a decision to make: choose my best friend, someone I now knew was a soulmate, and my aunt. I could be safe and I could choose I could choose the other choice. It would be torture, and it was, but it would be all worth it one day, that I would protect far more than myself if I chose to go back. So I chose to go back. I never really fully remembered any of it. It was like a puzzle I've been trying to put back together for decades. For a year after that, I was broken in a lot of ways. I constantly asked myself why I chose this. And while I knew I had a good reason, I spent most every night searching my dreams for a way back to the light and a way back to them, but I never did find it.
Hypnosis.
That would be a interesting thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or that therapy I can't think of right now because all I'm thinking of is
EMDR.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All I'm thinking of is E&M. But anyways,
Yeah.
um, I I guess in that therapy too, they can bring out that type of thing, right?
It
Like the
can.
subconscious
Mhm.
type thoughts and things like that.
Yeah, it can trigger things.
Yeah, I would definitely seek that out, and that's what I would do.
I thought that was interesting because at first it sounded like she was dissociating, which I think most people would in that situation. But then when she mentioned her dead family members and friends, I don't know.
Right, right,
So I thought that was worth mentioning.
for sure. For
This
sure, for sure.
one is from Let's Not Meet, and it's called The Man in the Crawl Space. That can never be good.
I'm sitting over a crawl space right now, everybody.
Oh, perfect.
This is awesome.
They said this happened to me about 5 years ago, and even now I get chills just thinking about it. I was renting a small house in a quiet neighborhood at the time. It wasn't anything fancy, but it was cozy, affordable, and had a lot of character. The only thing I didn't love was the crawl space under the house. The access door to it was in the laundry room, a square wooden hatch flush with the floor. It was locked from the outside, and I never had any reason to open it. I figured it was just pipes, cobwebs, and the usual creepy crawl space stuff. One evening, I came home late from work. It had been a stressful day, and all I wanted was to shower and collapse into bed. As I stepped inside, I noticed something strange. My laundry room light was on. I was sure I had turned it off that morning, but I chalked it up to being absent minded in my rush and turned it off again. That night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to a faint noise. At first, I thought it was just the wind, and as I lay there, I realized it was coming from the laundry room, a soft thumping sound. My heart started to race. I debated whether to get up and check or stay in bed and hope it stopped. Curiosity got the better of me, so I grabbed my phone for light and I tiptoed to the laundry room. When I opened the door, everything was quiet, but then I saw it. The hatch to the crawl space was slightly ajar. My stomach dropped. I distinctly remembered it being locked, and there was no way I could have accidentally opened it. Trying to stay calm, I convinced myself it might be an animal that had somehow gotten in. I shut the hatch tightly and placed a heavy box of detergent on top of it before going back to bed. The next day, I called the landlord to ask if there were any pest issues I should know about. He seemed surprised, and I said no one had reported anything like that before. Still, he promised to send someone over to check it out. That night, I double checked the hatch and even put a chair on top of it for good measure. I didn't hear any noises, and I started to feel a little silly for being so freaked out. But around 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. I froze. My bedroom door doesn't creak unless you push it slowly, and I knew I had closed it before bed. I stayed as still as I could, barely breathing, as I heard soft footsteps shuffle into the room. My phone was on the nightstand, just out of reach. The footsteps stopped right next to my bed. I could
Hmm.
feel someone's presence, their quiet breathing in the dark. Man, this person should be a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Summoning every ounce of courage I had, I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and swung it toward the intruder. There was a man, crouched on the floor, his face pale and his eyes wide and unblinking. He looked just as startled as I was. I screamed and bolted out of the room, running outside to the neighbor's house. I banged on the door until they let me in and they called the police. When the officers arrived, they found the man still in my house, hiding in the crawl space. He had a small mattress, some food wrappers, and a collection of random items he must have taken from my house. The lock on the hatch had been tampered with, and from the looks of it, he had been living under my house for at least a few days, maybe longer. The scariest part? The police said they found a notebook with detailed notes about me. He had written down my daily routine, when I left for work, when I came home, even what I wore. There was also a list of plans. They would not tell me what was on it. I moved out the next week and stayed with friends until I found a new place. To this day, I have no idea how he got in or how long he had been watching me before I noticed something was wrong. To the man in the crawl space, let's not meet ever.
Interesting. I would love to know if that's real.
I know it was so good.
You
Like she
know,
wrote
yeah,
it
that was really
so
good.
good.
That was really good. That was really good. But I guess there's a good point there, though. You should never be so routine. Always take a different way to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't walk your dog the same block every day. Like don't be so routine.
Somebody said this is the absolute scariest story they have read.
I told you I'm sitting in my crawl space right now. Well, above it anyway.
Nightmare stuff right here, somebody said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is a fun one.
Okay.
It's a creepy encounter, but it's fun. It says, I sold my socks off my feet for $10. Someone bought my socks off my feet at the grocery store. All right. So, for some context, I'm a 30-year-old female and live in the Midwest United States. About a week ago, I was shopping at my local grocery store for a few things I needed. I noticed a man near me in the dairy section looking at me intently. A little bit so I smiled and I walked away. I go through the checkout line and bag up my groceries and head out to my car. As I'm loading my items into the back of my car, the same guy I saw in the store pulls up behind my vehicle and says, Hey, I have a question for you. I said, Sure, what's up? He says, Can I buy your socks? At this point, I'm thinking, I must have heard him wrong. So I asked him to repeat the question, and he proceeds to ask the same question. Can I buy your socks? I'll pay you $10 for the socks on your feet. I said, why? He said, it's kind of my thing. I replied, like a foot fetish sort of thing. He said, yeah, something like that. Now, mind you, as he's asking me this, he had my car blocked in and he's reaching into his inner jacket pocket. Now, as a woman, I'm always aware of my surroundings and such. So at this point, my brain is thinking worst case scenarios. This man is about to pull out a pew pew and kill me if I don't give him my socks. So I said, hold on, let me put this cart back. So I walk back to my car after returning the shopping cart, and he has now exited his car and is right next to my driver's side door. Now I'm panicking and I'm scared for my life. It's fight, flight, or freeze, and I am frozen solid, honey. So I sit in my driver's seat with the door left open and I proceed to take off my socks and hand them to this guy. He says, thank you. You're beautiful and your feet are so pretty. He then hands me the $10 and walks back to his vehicle and drives away. Now, this is by far the creepiest, scariest thing that has ever happened to me. At this point, I'm no longer wearing socks out in public. Tell me what you think about this and what you would have done in this situation.
I don't even know what I would do, Nyoka. I would probably have some smart ass response back to the guy. Honestly, I don't even know what I would say or do. I
Somebody
would
said,
probably humiliate him in some fashion.
somebody said $10, but I paid 16 for these smart wools. Somebody said my coworker sold her panties she was wearing to some dude in a grocery store parking lot for $2,000. Wish that opportunity would arise in my lifetime.
Wow. Wow.
Somebody said, girl, you need to raise your prices for real. Somebody said you should at least talk them up to 50.
Do you even talk to people? When people like have that type of interaction with you, do you even acknowledge them? I don't.
No,
Okay.
no. I won't even acknowledge people asking for handouts. I know that's like, I don't want
Yeah.
anything to do with it.
Yeah.
People freak me out.
There's always the homeless people that sit by the bridge, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I pull up next to them all the time and I always smile because they're the same people I see all the time. I don't think they're homeless. I know the one is a drug addict. He's in and out of jail anyway, but the other ones, I don't know. I don't think they're really homeless. So the one day I had these treats in the back of my car that Lucy wouldn't eat, and I walked up to one of them because we call him Smiley. He's always smiling. And I walked up to him. I said, "Hey, do you want these?" And he's like, "Oh no, I wouldn't take the treats from your daughter or food from your daughter." And I was like, "See, you're really not homeless. Is really what you're telling me. You know what I mean?"
Right.
But in my mind, I always think that if anything ever happens to me under that bridge, those four people at each of those corners are the ones that are going to help me. So I always at least try to acknowledge their presence and
That's
be like,
smart.
hi, and I smile, and then I just go on my merry little way. So
Yeah.
there was one guy one time that was passed out in between the bays. And like I said, I'm an avid hiker, and I always have like a bottle of water. Well, I always have bottled water, but I had a bottle of water, and I always have one of those like liquid IVs or what's the other thing? Element or whatever. Yeah, Element. In my car, and I gave him a couple waters and a couple of those because I mean there was just he laid there for a day, and I was like, dude, you need something in you, and it was hot. And I was like, "Did you need something in you?" And I left him right by him, and he was laying there. And I said, "Dude, I don't know if you're awake." I said, "But you need to have this. Like, I'll leave these here for you. You can have them whenever." And he goes, "Oh my God, thank you so much." But he was in rough shape. He really needed help.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I didn't have a full on conversation with him or anything. I just left it by his side and walked off. But normally, I don't.
Is there still that person that has the sign that says, I bet you can't hit me with a quarter? Is that
So
person
Lucy
still
can
there?
read now. And last week, I had to pick her up and take her into work with me. And she goes, "Mom, does his sign say, I bet you can't hit me with a quarter?" And I said, "It does." She goes, "Do you have a quarter?" And I said, "Yes." So I handed it to her, and I thought she was going to fling it at him. He was ready. That's Smiley, by the way. And I thought she was gonna fling it at him, and he stood there for a minute waiting for her to throw it, and then she handed it to him out the window, and he goes, "Thanks for not throwing it at me." And he looked at me and he goes, "Thank you," because he knows that I don't give handouts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have
Okay.
one final story for you. Okay. It is called Encounter with a Potential Murderer. When I was around 16 or so, I worked in a store while going through college. We always had odd customers come in, but one in particular really sticks out to me. At the sight of him walking in, I'd get chills. My whole body wanted to nope out. Nope out. Is
What does that
that
mean?
I don't know. You could really tell he thought he was charming, but even thinking of him now, I feel a little sick. He used to always offer to take me out to his car, buy me jewelry, strange things for a grown man to say to a 16-year-old. He gave me rapey vibes. Being the a-hole I was at 16, I was always rude to him, never ever humored him, but it didn't deter him from visiting the store every single day. It got to the point I told my manager if I saw him, I'd just go out the back door or sometimes even duck. Anyways, a few years before this, there was a very infamous story of a young girl going missing in our town. Her body was never found. Fast forward to now, I'm in my 30s, watching a documentary about two men accused of girl's murder. And who is one of the accused? This guy.
No
They
shit.
had tapes recording how they done it, but blah blah blah. But because of mishandling evidence by the police, they got away with it. If he wasn't the killer, I'd be shocked. He tried to prey on young women, buying them things, flattering them. And honestly, I believe he was attempting to line me up as his next victim. Never has another human being made me feel so creeped out. It still makes me shudder at the thought he's still out there. Well, I'm
I
glad she
think,
was an a-hole.
yes. I think I may have said something about this, so I'll just briefly say it. But I remember I used to work at a liquor store back in New York, and my boss was with me one day, and this man came in, and once he came through the door, I like had this feeling I just had to get away from him. And I can't say I've never felt that. I've only felt it twice in my life. But I've never felt my gut try to tell me to stay away from somebody more in my entire life. So I truly think that your body can actually tell you, who's really creepy. I'm using air
Mm-hmm.
quotes, in your life. And he came in twice to the store, and I would tell the first time I told my boss, I said, I'm not going to cash him out, and I'll tell you why later. And I said, I'm going to go in the back room. And he said, okay. And I did. And then when I came out, I explained to him exactly what I just told you. And then the guy came in again, and I looked at my boss and I said, I'm not. And he goes, go in the back. I said, okay. I didn't know the guy, but I'm going to tell you, I just had that feeling of like when you want to vomit on your shoes, just that gut feeling of this is not good. I don't know. It was strange.
Yeah, I mean, what are the odds that you walk past a person like that in your lifetime? It's got to be higher than we think.
Right. Right.
Hmm,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I had a student once come to me, and we were in an extra training class that I used to offer at the college. And he sat down with me and he was telling me about his past and how people were basically looking at his past as if that's something that he does now. So I get he was molested as a kid. And if you know anything about those stats, a lot of times when you're molested as a kid, you're going to molest as an adult, and that's what you
Yeah.
do, and the cycle just keeps going. So
Mhm.
as he's talking to me, I'm sitting there thinking like, is he trying to tell me something? Like, is there more to this? And I sat there and I said, Megan, that's the investigation brain in you. Like you got to shut that off. This is just a conversation. And I'm like, but is it? He was a photographer, and he would photograph kids. That's what he did for a
Mm,
living. Um, you probably are familiar with this case, but about a year and a half later, my other student texted me and said, I found out that pictures of my kids were taken, and it turns out that he was actually doing that.
I'm not surprised.
And honestly, when he told me, I mean, I was like dumbfounded, but at the same time, I was like, you know, exactly what you just said. I'm not surprised. And I was like, man, I hope when he came to me, it wasn't just one of those like, please help me. I didn't get that vibe, but at the same time, I did get the vibe of how strange is this? You know what I mean? Like I got that vibe of I don't know that I trust what you're saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you pay attention to your gut again.
It is. Yeah. How weird is it that I posted that
Mhm.
today and then all this stuff is about that?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
like the theme today.
Yeah. Yep.
But now you've got your second Reddit under your belt.
I do. I do. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
So, yeah, just something a little lighter since, we recorded the Patreon the same night as this. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It
But
is.
anyways, that's all I got for you guys. So, hope you enjoyed. But we'll give you a new story next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.